Wars are often explained through visible events, troop movements, missile launches, public speeches, diplomatic breakdowns, but long before soldiers mobilize or treaties collapse, something else is already moving beneath the surface. Secret intelligence. Intelligence does not fire weapons, it does not sign treaties, it does not vote in parliaments, but it shapes the decisions that lead to all three. So how does secret intelligence influence wars and diplomacy? How does information gathered in secrecy alter public history? And where does intelligence end and policy begin? Let's break it down. First, intelligence shapes war before war begins. Modern conflicts rarely erupt without warning. Signals accumulate. Military build-ups, economic pressure, political rhetoric, cyber probing, diplomatic signals. Intelligence agencies monitor these indicators constantly. Their job is early warning. Early warning provides governments with options. If a state knows an adversary is preparing military action, it can reinforce borders, strengthen alliances, issue deterrent warnings, engage in diplomatic negotiation, or prepare defensive operations. Without intelligence, leaders operate reactively. With intelligence, they operate preemptively. That difference can determine whether conflict escalates or is contained. Intelligence also shapes deterrence. Deterrence relies on credibility. A state must signal that it understands both the capability and the intention of a potential adversary. Secret intelligence provides that understanding. If a government knows the readiness level of opposing forces, the deployment schedule, or internal political fractures, it can calibrate its response. Too weak, and it invites aggression. Too strong, and it provokes escalation. Intelligence allows for measured positioning. Now consider intelligence during war. Once conflict begins, the role of intelligence intensifies. Battlefield intelligence informs tactical decisions, but strategic intelligence shapes the broader campaign. Understanding an adversary's supply chains, decision-making structures, alliance commitments, and economic resilience determines long-term strategy. Intelligence influences target prioritization, force allocation, timing of offensives, diplomatic outreach to third parties, sanctions coordination. Wars are not only fought with weapons, they are fought with information. There is also the role of deception. Intelligence agencies do not only collect information, they assess adversary perceptions. If a government understands what its opponent believes, it can shape those beliefs. Strategic deception, misleading an adversary about capabilities or intentions, has altered the course of conflicts throughout history. But deception only works when grounded in accurate intelligence. Without insight into adversary analysis, deception becomes guesswork. Now let's move from war to diplomacy. Secret intelligence often provides leverage in negotiation. During diplomatic talks, public positions may differ from private realities. Intelligence can reveal economic vulnerabilities, internal political divisions, leadership pressures, military limitations, alliance tensions. Armed with that information, negotiators can adjust strategy. They may press harder, or compromise earlier, or introduce proposals tailored to internal constraints of the opposing side. Intelligence does not dictate diplomatic outcomes, but it shapes negotiating posture. Sanctions policy is another area where intelligence plays a central role. Economic sanctions require precise targeting. Identifying financial networks, hidden ownership structures, supply chains, and enforcement vulnerabilities depends on intelligence. Without accurate intelligence, sanctions become symbolic. With accurate intelligence, they become strategic tools. This is particularly visible in modern conflicts, where financial warfare operates alongside military activity. Intelligence also shapes alliance behavior. When nations share intelligence, they align threat perceptions. Shared threat perception strengthens alliances. Divergent intelligence assessments weaken them. If two allied governments assess the same adversary differently, diplomatic friction follows. Shared intelligence, such as within alliances like Five Eyes, helps maintain strategic cohesion. Alignment of information leads to alignment of policy, but intelligence influence is not always positive. History demonstrates that flawed intelligence can shape disastrous decisions. If intelligence assessments are inaccurate, incomplete, or misinterpreted, policy built upon them can fail. This highlights an important reality. Intelligence does not make decisions. Political leaders do. Intelligence informs, leaders decide. The quality of decision-making depends on how intelligence is interpreted. There is also the question of politicization. Intelligence agencies are designed to provide objective assessments, but policymakers may favor interpretations that align with existing preferences. When intelligence becomes shaped by political pressure, strategic miscalculation becomes more likely. Strong institutional safeguards aim to preserve analytical independence, but tension between intelligence and policy is inevitable, because intelligence often delivers inconvenient conclusions. Now consider the modern dimension: cyber and hybrid conflict. Today, intelligence shapes not only military confrontation, but information environments. Cyber operations can disrupt infrastructure. Influence campaigns can affect public opinion. Covert financial networks can destabilize economies. Intelligence agencies monitor these activities continuously. In many cases, the exposure of hostile activity becomes a diplomatic tool. Publicly revealing intelligence, selectively, can deter aggression without firing a shot. This is a relatively modern evolution. Intelligence once remained entirely secret. Today, strategic disclosure can serve policy objectives. Intelligence also shapes crisis management. When unexpected events occur, military incidents, regional escalations, leadership changes, intelligence provides rapid assessment. Is this accidental? Intentional? A signal? A prelude to escalation? Accurate assessment can prevent overreaction. Miscalculation during crises often leads to escalation. Intelligence reduces uncertainty. Reduced uncertainty lowers the risk of unintended war. But intelligence cannot eliminate risk. It cannot guarantee peace. It cannot predict every variable. It reduces ambiguity. That reduction is its strategic value. Now let's examine diplomacy more closely. In international negotiations, timing is critical. Intelligence informs timing. If a government knows an opposing leader faces internal pressure, it may delay talks. If intelligence reveals economic strain, proposals may be adjusted. If intelligence suggests imminent instability, negotiations may accelerate. Diplomacy is not conducted blindly. It is shaped by hidden context. Intelligence also affects peace processes. Understanding armed group structures, internal rivalries, funding mechanisms, external sponsors. These factors influence how peace agreements are designed. Without insight into factional dynamics, agreements collapse. With deeper intelligence, settlements become more durable. In the modern era, intelligence increasingly intersects with technology, artificial intelligence, satellite surveillance, open-source intelligence, cyber monitoring. The speed of data processing has accelerated dramatically, but speed creates its own challenge. Leaders must distinguish signal from noise. Intelligence abundance can overwhelm decision-makers. Quality analysis becomes more important than raw collection. There is also the ethical dimension. Secret intelligence operates outside public transparency. Yet it shapes public outcomes. This creates democratic tension. Oversight mechanisms attempt to balance secrecy with accountability. In democratic systems, intelligence agencies report to elected officials, parliamentary committees, judicial review structures, executive authorization. The legitimacy of intelligence influence depends on this accountability. So how exactly does secret intelligence shape wars and diplomacy? Through early warning, through deterrence calibration, through battlefield insight, through deception planning, through negotiation leverage, through sanctions precision, through alliance alignment, through crisis management, through strategic disclosure. It shapes perception, and perception shapes action. But there is one final point. Intelligence rarely appears in history books as the decisive factor. It operates quietly. Policies are announced publicly. Wars are visible. Treaties are signed. But behind those moments lie assessments, threat evaluations, risk calculations, scenario modelling. Intelligence provides the informational architecture behind visible power. When intelligence functions effectively, wars may be avoided. When intelligence fails, conflicts may escalate. When intelligence is accurate but ignored, consequences follow. The relationship between intelligence and policy is constant and complex. In the modern geopolitical environment, power is not defined solely by military capability. It is defined by informational advantage. The state that understands the strategic environment most clearly holds the greatest leverage. Secret intelligence is the instrument through which that understanding is built. It does not command armies. It does not negotiate treaties, but it shapes the choices that determine both. So when we ask how secret intelligence shapes wars and diplomacy, the answer is not dramatic. It is structural. Intelligence informs perception. Perception informs strategy. Strategy informs action. And action shapes history.